I'm happy the Blues defeated the Avalanche. However, I am still a little bit annoyed about the loss to the Jets. Let's talk about it.
Hey, this is Brayden Chen. Subscribe to Locked On Blues.
You're Locked On Blues, your daily podcast on the St. Louis Blues. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to Locked On Blues. I am your host of Locked On Blues, Haley Taylor Simon, talking to you all things about our St. Louis Blues here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today on Locked On Blues, I'm going to talk to you about my annoyance with the loss of the Jets. That is right, keyword annoyance. Happy the boys got the point, obviously, but annoyed about how that loss even transpired. The Blues defeated the Avalanche last night. It was pretty awesome, to say the least. And I'm back in. Oh my goodness. Why am I back in? Because there's always hope. And I blame Jordan Binnington first off for me feeling this way. But we do have a lot to talk about today on LOB, Locked On Blues. That's my new nickname for this podcast, LOB. But I do want to let you know, by the way, that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Let's discuss this Jets loss. It is me, Haley. Hi. I am watching this hockey game Saturday night, right? I have no plans other than to watch my Blues play. And I'm going into this game thinking, well, the Jets have 39 wins in this season. They have 81 points. They're a much better team than the Blues. So I kind of went in just, I guess you can say expecting the worst, but hoping for the best. And honestly, let's just say for how it is, I was a little bit surprised that the Blues actually looked like they were playing good hockey. Not to say that I didn't expect them not to, but I mean, you're coming out of this break, right? And I just didn't expect them to actually look as motivated as they were, especially because Jordan Binnington wasn't in net that night. It was Joel Hofer. And I'm not upset, by the way, that Binner didn't get the start. Obviously, he played a fantastic game for Team Canada and got them the win in the Four Nations face-off. So for me, it was more just the fact of, okay, I understand completely why Hofer's in. Even on the podcast prior to the game, I did say to you all that I expected Joel Hofer to be the one starting in net. So there was no surprise about that. But that's not why I am annoyed. But I will explain why as we talk about this game. So the Jets score within the first 5 minutes, right? And I'm thinking to myself, oh boy, buckle up. This is going to be an ugly, ugly game. But my Lord and Savior, the one and only, who do I love the most? Robert bleeping Thomas. That is right. Robert Thomas with his beautiful equalizing goal about 10 minutes after the Jets' first goal. And I thought to myself, hell, we have a tied hockey game against Winnipeg. And that's when it hit me. The Blues are doing tremendous work on the face-off, by the way. Like, I feel like every face-off they essentially won. They were actually playing good defense. Like, I was feeling pretty confident, okay? We go to the second period. What happens? Winnipeg scores. So now they lead 2-1. But you know what? We're down by literally a goal. The team, I mean, they're taking shots on goal. I'm telling you, like, they're hitting hard. Like, there is a lot of good. And then 16 seconds. 16 seconds into the third period. Robert Thomas scores. And now we're on hat trick watch. I was loving every moment of this. You know, Robert Thomas is my boy. So now the Blues, it's a tied game, by the way. I should have mentioned that. The game is tied, okay? I know my focus is on Robert Thomas, and I was actually live streaming this game on my TikTok live account because I was like, you know what? I don't know. I just wanted to interact with other St. Louisians. And I honestly do not regret anything about it because then my boy Bushi scores. And by the way, let's talk about Bush, okay? He had an assist on Thomas's first goal. Then Thomas's second goal, he has an assist, and then he scores. So this is already looking like a 3-point game for him. So I was very pleased. But then, and that was on the power play too, by the way, Bush's goal. So that gives the Blues a 3-2 lead. I'm being a little bit selfish, right? And all I'm thinking to myself is, we're going to see a hat trick from Robert Thomas. And that's all I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking 1 second about, well, what if Winnipeg, ends up tying this game? Why would I think that, right? I mean, the Blues are showing absolute dominance. They look like the better team. Well, guess what? Guess what happened with 28 seconds left in the final frame? Winnipeg scores. Yeah. So now it's 3-3, and we head to extra minutes, which, again, could have been prevented. So now we go to overtime, and guess what happens? No one scores. So that means that we have a lovely shootout. And, Robert Thomas and Bushi, they both got rejected. And then Kyle Connor. I know I talk about Kyle Connor all the time about how I cannot stand him because it is the reality. When it's not against the Blues, sure, he's cool to watch. But I mean, this player, Kyle Connor, he is good. Did great in the Four Nations. Like, he's just such a great player. It was a nice wrister, got it past got it past Hofer, and then Shenny missed. So then Winnipeg won. The Jets then win a team record with 9 straight wins. They're the first team to win 40 games. Oh, and then they got 83 points. The Blues came out of this game with 1 point. I was annoyed. And I don't want to come on this podcast, right, and act like I was so confident that the Blues would have been able to beat the Winnipeg Jets, because that's not what I thought initially. But I'm watching this team play, and I'm like, okay, they definitely have something going. I don't know what it is, because this team's hard to read. And that's my biggest takeaway with the St. Louis Blues, is that this is a very difficult team to read. I can't tell how they're going to play. I don't know how they're going to show up. And I feel like there's some teams where you can kind of get the sense, okay, they're a team that makes a really big push in the final frame. This team usually is horrible in second periods. And last night's game, and I'm going to talk about that soon, they had a great second period. So I think for me, watching this team, I feel a sense of frustration sometimes, because I don't think that Joel Hofer had a bad game in any way. I think that, again, this Winnipeg team is super talented. And Tucker was in that game, by the way, Tyler Tucker. I had to remember which one. Sometimes when there's back-to-backs, it all kind of clumps together, but I thought Tucker had a good game. I did. I don't think that there was a player that I can point out that had a bad game, but it's just that final goal in the third period that the Blues let in is unacceptable. You see the clock winding down. There's less than 30 seconds left. That's when you need to just, and I know people hate this, and I hate it too, but just take the puck behind the net and babysit it. Just try to kill the clock. I think the problem that the Blues ran into is that Winnipeg was just really aggressive, and they weren't able to stop them. But I feel like getting another team scoring the way that Winnipeg did in that last 30 seconds was just unacceptable. And the Blues would have won. They would have had the 2 points. They would have won the game, and they would have prevented Winnipeg from getting a franchise record on Blues ice. And that's what bothers me. It's not that I think the Blues are going to, all of a sudden go undefeated the rest of the season, but it's like, wow, another team came onto your home ice and was able to get a franchise record. Like, that bothers me. I mean, it's nothing against Winnipeg, but I mean, I think that if any team did that, it could be any team, and I would feel annoyed. More so that it's against a division team, right? But overall, I guess I have to be somewhat satisfied that the Blues came out of this game with 1 point at least, even though they should have had 2 points. And I think that's why I get frustrated. It's not that if you told me the Blues got 1 point out of the Jets before the game began, I would have been happy with it. I think it's literally just the fact of the Blues could have had the 2 points and they could have won, but not everything happens the way that it should. And we know Payne kind of well, so I was a little annoyed. I did go on social media and I voiced my complaints, but Yashiria's game was a complete 180. Well, the outcome was a 180, not the way they played. But let's talk about some wonderful pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety. That is the perfect grab and go snack for busy days, whether I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost. They're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. Get snackin' and get crackin' with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. The Blues had a nice win over the Colorado Avalanche last night. Again, back-to-back games. Hate that sometimes because I want our boys to, recuperate a little bit. But at the same time, I feel like with the break, a lot of them had a good amount of time off, a significant amount of time off for every player except Parayko and Binnington. And I just am excited to see Blues hockey again. So I'm a little bit selfish in the sense of, okay, well, let's just get back to work. And the Blues certainly did do that. So in the first period, Taves, obviously, what's going to happen? He scores right away for the Avs. Well, not right away, like 7 minutes in. But I mean, are you surprised? I'm not. There are certain players, and I feel like on each team, you can name like that player that's going to score, or that's most likely going to score. And I always say that with the Jets, it's Kyle Connor, and then obviously Taves with the Colorado Avalanche. But I was more impressed, honestly, with the way that the Blues responded to that goal. Because for St. Louis, it's easy to feel discouraged. Maybe, you get scored on, not the best thing like that. I mean, obviously, it sucks when somebody scores on you. It's not ideal. But in the second period, the Blues had 3 goals in a row. Braden Shen got his 12th goal of the season, tying the game 1-1, 10 minutes in. A couple minutes later, Colton Parayko with his 13th goal of the season. He's already over his season high in goals. And then Dylan Holloway, that is right, Hollis got his 17th goal of the season, making it 3-1. The third period was a little bit boring. I'm not going to lie. I was like half asleep and I'm like, oh, I want to stay awake. But overall, it was such a good game. Jordan Binnington had a fantastic game, stopping 20 out of 29 shots on goal. And I really do believe that this is a team that is going to do some things that sometimes will surprise us. And in last night's game, I mean, the Avalanche are a good team. Okay, I'm not going to deny that. But I think that for the Blues, you had an excellent showing from 2 of the players in the 4-nation faceoff on that winning Canadian team, with Colton Parayko with the go-ahead goal, and then obviously Binner, who was solid in net. And I think that this was a game where not a lot of people were expecting the Blues to win, but they played the same way that they did against the Jets in the sense of this competitiveness, except the fact that the Blues actually did win this game this time. And that was something that I was a little bit frustrated about, right? Was about how the Blues and their last minute of play against the Jets transpired. But against the Avalanche, I feel like the Blues really just, I don't know, just really kind of set the tone. I know for the Avalanche, they're probably frustrated because, again, the Blues are not the best team. But I do feel like this team is kind of turning things around a little bit, right? And after last night's game, Coach Montgomery said we were relentless. I thought in our checking and offensively after the first period, I thought that we were really hard offensively, not passing up shots, having people at the net front, driving the net. We tried a lot of low slot line plays, east-west plays, and I thought our D-men were really good. And I think that's honestly the kind of answer that you want to hear from your head coach, especially with how the Blues did play last night. It's funny. I think that when we kind of talk about what the Blues need to do, right? And I feel like the Blues, as long as they get in front of the net, like I know Parayko did, they're going to do some really good things because rebounding is really how you win in this day and age in hockey. And it's not even like, slap shots don't matter, wristers don't matter, but sometimes it's a little tip and rebound goes a long, long way. So I think for me, that's what I was really proud of from the Blues. And that's what stood out to me the most out of anything. But this team's only going to get better. And I do believe that Jordan Binnington has been a huge asset to that. And in last night's game, we just saw a calm, cool, and composed Binner in net. But I think that when you just look at the Blues and overall, and you just look at what they can do and their ability to do a really good job when it does come to playing strong defense, strong offense, they do have that. And I think that the problem is against a team like the Winnipeg Jets, where you kind of expected them to lose. You expected them to lose against the Avalanche. I said that on this podcast. I said the Blues were going to lose in both of those games. So it's not like I feel discouraged due to the fact that the Blues did have that one loss. I mean, they got 3 out of 4 points, which is really, really good when you think about it. And then, of course, they do have the Seattle Kraken, and they will be playing the Kraken tomorrow night. So, again, 3-game homestand, not the easiest homestand, right? Not that. But right now, most of the teams in the NHL do look better than St. Louis, and that's just the reality and the truth of it all. Again, not a diss, not a negative. It's just a reality of where the Blues are at currently right now. But in that Avalanche game, I was just really impressed. Just really impressed with what I saw on the ice and the product that I saw on the ice. And I think Coach Montgomery, when he was explaining what he thought, he was completely right too. And I also think at the end of the day, right, this team is just playing more competitive hockey. And that's where this team really does excel in. And Binnington said, by the way, it was a little bit of an adjustment wearing white pads, blue jersey at this rink. Obviously, the last game I played, it was very, very intense. And this game built and got more intense as it went along. But we came out with 3 big points on the weekend. And our team played phenomenal. It's a great start for us coming out of the break. And it was fun to have the lead, win the game at home, and the crowd into it too. It was also, by the way, kids' night. So it was just cool to see all the little kiddos out because it was an earlier puck drop. It was a 5 p.m. puck drop instead of a late puck drop. So I kind of, not that I'm like surprised that Binnington said that, but I mean, I do understand where he's coming from because the Four Nations, it did feel like a playoff atmosphere, right? So it was definitely a different type of environment. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action, and if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether I'm backing my team for a late game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch 3. I've never felt I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Again, I am curious who your NBA team is, so comment down below. Right now for me, basketball kind of is a little bit I like playoff basketball. So it's heating up, though, because the playoffs are approaching. I am back in, by the way, when it comes to the St. Louis Blues and their chance at actually going to the playoffs. Speaking of playoffs, I understand that the Blues may not be the best team. I understand that the St. Louis team has some issues, right? I understand that this team is points behind where they need to be. I understand that it is the end of February and we're nearing March. I get that. But St. Louis, you know what I also do understand? That I watched 2 games this weekend that the Blues played some good hockey in. I understand what good hockey looks like. Okay? I understand that 100%. I know what that looks like. And I hear what you're saying. Hale, come on. How could you be this optimistic, right? I think the reason why I do have optimism, it's not because I think that the Blues are going to somehow win the Stanley Cup, but I think that the players are finally showcasing their true talent. I've always said this about Robert Thomas. He is one of those players that is underrated. I don't feel like he gets looked upon enough, and I hate it. I hate that for him because I do feel like he is one of the top forwards in the NHL, a top center in the NHL. I feel like he kind of doesn't get the respect he deserves. And then on the other hand, you have players like a Colton Parayko who played fantastic hockey in the Four Nations face-off. And I feel like now people are like, oh, wow, this guy is really good. And, you know, he is a big body and he accumulates a lot of great plays on the ice. My problem is, St. Louis, it's not that I don't think this team isn't good enough. It's that I feel like this team is inconsistent too much. And inconsistency is the problem when it comes to the St. Louis Blues. Okay. And I think looking at this team and evaluating how I feel about this team, it's easy to get carried away sometimes. Okay. It is. It's easy to look at this team and think to yourself, they're just not as good. They're not as talented. They're not as strong. Okay. I understand. I do. I get it. I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to deny that this team is too inconsistent. I'm not. I'm not. I do, on the other hand, just want to say that I also can understand why maybe, just maybe, this team has an opportunity to punch their way into the playoffs. Okay. And I feel like it could happen. I know it's a long shot. And I know that I sound a little crazy right now saying this. And maybe I am a little crazy saying this because I know that it's late in the season. You know, this team's inconsistent. So why would this team be a playoff contending team? Well, it's because they still are kind of in it. They have 58 points on the season. Right now, the Canucks actually have the 2 spot in the wild card for the West. And they have 63 points. The Blues have 58 points. Ahead of the Blues is Utah with 59 points. And then the Flames have 62 points. The Blues are kind of there. Kind of. I don't know. I can't say goodbye yet. I can't. And that's my issue, is that I feel like I'm just a little bit too optimistic when it comes to this team. They're still a bottom 10 team. I really hope, and I think that's the key word, that the Blues are able to get the job done. I miss playoff hockey, man. I want to see my Blues in playoff hockey. All right. I'm going to talk to you tomorrow. We're going to talk so much more about against the Kraken coming up. And we're going to talk more about the trade deadline because I'm seeing some rumors swirling around that Binnington might be on the block. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Until then, let's go Blues.